Hey ho everyone, welcome to this in-depth recap of the DPP Ubers matches of week 1 from the Ubers Premier League. We're trying something a bit different here, so we will be going a bit more in-depth about this tier especially, so we have the opportunity to talk about all the matches, which we would likely only go over briefly in the overall recap. So could you all introduce yourselves briefly?
So I guess I'll start. Hey guys, I'm Society. I am the starter for DPP for the Dracoviches this year.
What's up? I'm Lee. I'm not a DPP main, but I mean, I play black and white, so it's close enough, and I've done a fair bit of testing in DPP, I guess, since I was on High Lord's team last year.
Yes, and I'm Waruchuu. I'm not very knowledgeable about the tier, but I'm here to ask questions at points where the average player or someone who doesn't know much about the tier might not be as aware of everything. All right. Shall we just go into the first game?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, so this is
Sus's
my
favorite
game.
game.
Yes.
This is my game. So, when I was playing this game, I was actually out of town for the entire weekend. I had to play this game very early in the morning. Thanks to Rob Jr. for actually being accommodating with that time. By the way, it was 8:30 in the morning when we played. So yeah, I usually do not play on an alt, but I could not log onto my main account on my phone. So it was so yeah, that was the circumstances of what was going on. But I still played a pretty solid game regardless, I feel.
All right.
Yeah, I guess, Sus, you don't have to, obviously, but if there's anything you want to say about, like, just going into the week, things that you thought.
Yeah, I think for my game especially, I can go over my thought process for prep because I actually was very involved with what I wanted to bring this week, just because there are two players on Rob Jr.'s team that I highly respect, and they know DPP very well. Hack for one. One of the best Ubers players, of course, that we have
Yep.
ever seen, and it's a blessing that he still plays. And also Mashing, who pretty much carried all my DPP Ubers prep last year. So I knew I had a handful theory-wise on what I needed to bring. And I guess I'll talk about the team at the end because I think most of the sets actually got revealed. So you can start.
Sure.
The game.
All right. So right away about the leads, does that reveal anything about the teams here?
Yeah. So usually, in modern DPP, lead Darkrai is generally not very good. People just use it for roll compression. So the most common DPP lead Darkrai is Choice Scarf because it gives you speed control. It gives you immediate Dark Void versus most spikers, so you can limit how many hazards they can set up right away. And it's also just good because you can sleep pretty much anything and not lose too much momentum. So I realized right away that it was probably going to be a more bulky team, just because those are the only teams you realistically can fit lead Darkrai. And the first team that actually popped into my head was a team that London Beats used in World Cup. And it actually turned out that 5 out of the 6 of the mons were correct off the top of my head. So yeah, so that's what I thought. And I think my team with lead Rayquaza doesn't actually imply too much, because usually when you see lead Rayquaza is usually on some spikeless Ogre Zong Rain, for example. So it's going to be something very offensive. So I got more information from this lead, I think, based off this.
So what does lead Rayquaza usually do? I believe it's also somewhat uncommon.
It should be used more. Mostly people use it just to limit spikers as well, because it has extreme speed for Deoxys. So the most common set is a Focus Sash, and I'm pretty sure that's the only set that was in Rob Jr.'s head at the time.
Alright, so...
Also, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like every time I've seen a lead Rai, it's not on a sort of, Kylord Zong rain squad.
Yeah.
So,
Usually it's not.
yeah, like,
that's right.
it's usually like back dawn and like hyper offense or things like that, I think.
Lead Ray.
I haven't seen it on hyper offense in recent memory, but yeah, Dawn is very, very likely on this.
Yeah, those
So
teams are
I'm
kind of
playing
old.
Dawn.
Yeah.
Alright. So, is heat trim very common in DPP Ubers?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Heat trend is a really big problem for my team, especially because, as you see, I revealed a Blissey, so my team is a bit more slow paced. So heat trend's actually a really, really big nuisance because that carries taunt, toxic, roar, lava plume, all that stuff. So it's very hard for me to get in my mons, like unscathed, realistically speaking. But the good news about this position is I got two things out pretty much. So the first thing is I got the information I needed about the structure, the composition of his team. So when you see Heatran, Groudon, there has to be a water resist. It has to be a really sturdy one too, because there's only 3 slots left. There has to be a sleep absorber as well. And the sleep absorber is not a choice scarf mon because the choice scarf is at lead, which was Darkrai. So my initial thoughts for the last 3 mons were a Lati. It could be Latios or Latias, more so Latias because again it has to be a sturdier water resist. Choice mon, it's probably a really strong choice mon. My initial thought was Garchomp, but you'll see later on that it wasn't. But the criteria was the same. And then the last one was the second most annoying mon that I was expecting, which was Mewtwo. So Rob Jr. made, I believe, a mistake earlier on by giving me 25% on the Heatran right away. So it's a bit more manageable for me now. And he gave me rocks anyways. So right now, I'm very happy with the position I have. I have the information, I have the damage off the Heatran that I needed.
Alright. So Giratina Origin mostly has has offensive sets in DPP, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Yep. And also with Giratina, what it implies is I most likely have spikes on my team. So yeah, there's the sleep absorber, and my first initial thought it was choice specs Dialga.
Yeah. So to clarify, it's a sleep absorber because it's choice and has sleep talk.
Darkrai, yeah, because Darkrai ruins Sun usually.
Yeah. You usually need to have a sleep absorber in these generations where Darkrai is still prevalent, because otherwise it just ruins a lot of teams.
Correct. So
very fortunate position for you right away, it seems.
Yeah, so the Draco Miss on his end actually helped me a lot because it forced me to not waste a turn of soft boiling, so I could immediately get momentum with that double switch. And that turn also confirmed the specs.
Yep.
Right, and also getting quite a bit of chip on Heatran, so it's not really able to.
I was very happy when I got it down to 50% without it doing too much.
Yeah. By this switch in, I assume it's uncommon for a Groudon to have fire attacks.
Yeah, I didn't think it had a fire move. In this case, it has to have T-Wave, in my opinion, just because Latis are really annoying for his team. And you saw on that turn, I have Lum Rayquaza, which is not common at all nowadays.
Yeah, so if he stayed in and would have tried to
Dark Void. Darkrai.
Yeah.
So at turn 19, like my position was excellent. I have 2 mons dead. I have all my mons still healthy, and I also have a healing wish Jirachi in the back. And he gave me the choice scarf right now, which was even better because I got a uncontested dragon spam against his the remaining of his team, and obviously what you just saw.
Yeah, 2 misses.
And that was like that ruined me completely after that.
And then
And the
just
flinch.
Pop it off.
Yeah.
So now it really can't do anything against Blissey, correct? Yes. Really getting lucky with the flinches here.
Yeah.
Now it's at a range where it can switch in again.
I was really weirded out why he just hard switched into his Mewtwo right now, but it worked out, sadly.
Is Shadow Sneak on com or would have?
Shadow Sneak's almost definitely on my on Giratina Origin.
All right.
Yeah, I think Sus was just trying to snipe the Dialga switch in or anything like that.
Oh yeah, makes sense.
It's more so for Groudon. I thought that was his play, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on that turn I kind of messed up because I was so tilted from the earlier sequences. I was just trying to
You
fish
thought he
for
would
crit.
recover. Yeah. Yeah, so here's the Scarfer from Sus's team.
Yeah.
So did he double into Mewtwo? Yeah, Skarm. Expecting the Skarm.
Yeah, so at this point, my win condition was actually just healing, wishing my Giratina back up, and killing the rest of his team.
Yeah. Healing Wish, does it heal status as well?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it
Alright,
does.
alright.
The DPP healing wish is notorious for causing people from other gens to mess up.
Yeah,
And
there's
this
this famous
turn-
gif.
Oh my god, I was so close to just T-waving, but I didn't do it. And at this point, the game was lost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a series of
It is what it
unfortunate
is.
events.
I kind of messed up. Yeah, I kind of messed up. I was kind of rushed with the healing wish, but I was so behind that I thought that it was the only avenue I had. But I wasn't able to fully concentrate during most of this game, which sounds like an excuse, but yeah.
So now Mewtwo just wins.
Mewtwo wins, yeah. Yeah, just wins.
Alright.
Yeah, so he's helped a bit by luck, but Bob Jr. gets a nice win for... I mean, I assume this is probably one of his first DPP Ubers games. He's been very well known.
He played DPP PL a couple years ago, but I
Mhm.
didn't see anything between now and then.
Mm-hmm. And that's the game.
Yeah, because he just EQs into Dragon Pulse and wins.
Alright. Hello. So that was the first game. Anything to add to that before we go ahead to the next game? Also,
Yeah, I was happy with the team that I brought in the end. I probably could have played it a bit better as well, especially with the Jirachi Healing Wish sequence. Yeah, that's about it, honestly. Their prep is pretty good, honestly, because I use a lot of Bronzong and I use a lot of Stall generally. So Stall 2 was just like was probably just a no-brainer pick into what I wanted to use, and it paid off in full right now. Yeah, that's about all I can add at this point.
And hello, Dave. Could you quickly introduce yourself?
Hey guys, this is Dave, otherwise known as Stone Cold.
All right.
Yeah, Stone Cold is the DPPer for the Bandits, I believe.
That'd be correct.
Cool.
Former manager of UPL for the past 4 years.
All right. Then
Do you want to go through Stone Cold's game first?
All right, we can do that. So Tentacruel, is that a common lead? I believe I've also not seen that one too often before.
It's an older
cool
lead.
Yeah.
So if you want to pause on turn 1, I can give some insight from both London and myself. London was probably leaning T-Spikes because I'm traditionally, in my scout, a lot of people like to bring maybe not full stall, but some type of T-Spikes offense or T-Spikes balance versus me. And on my end, I called it out and said this guy's going to T-Spikes me. So I just brought the most anti-T-Spikes team that one could really come up with. And you'll kind of see how that unfolds from here.
So
yeah, it's kind of a boring first 3-4 turns. It's just protecting Stealth Rock versus, both of us don't really want our leads at this point.
Was it?
And so this is where the game begins.
Was it sashed?
It was sashed.
All right. Oh, and also absorbing the T-spikes with the Quillfish.
Yeah, so I knew there that we wanted to absorb T-spikes, and I had a hunch that it was typically in a structure like this, it's a bulkier. Once you see T-spikes, you can assume bulky Kyogre, probably not going to be choice. If it is choice, I know that I'm going to probably live unless it's with the EVs that I had, and then but I was expecting a CM T-Wave and then Hydro Ice Beam. So I figured that
was your
absorbing
Quillfish EV for Specs Kyogre?
Huh?
Oh, was your was your Quillfish EV'd for Specs Kyogre?
Nah, it melts the Specs Ogre. It just lives choice. Choice Scarf.
Right.
Yeah. Nothing's EV'd for Specs Ogre. Water Spout kills everything.
I was about to say.
Yeah. Also, for anyone wondering why it's running Hydro Pump here, Origin Pulse, the signature move of Kyogre, was only added in Generation 6 with the Auras games. So that's why it has to choose the weaker move here.
So the information on that turn is simply it's a strategy that Society and I would probably do the same thing on. We know T-Spike's coming. So if you hard gear like that, that's a tell that it's a sub gear and that he has one opportunity to get sub off without taking T-Spike's damage. So he's just throwing that out there for Giratina to do as much as humanly possible.
Right.
So from that, you also probably also has Roar, right?
No,
sub CM on these teams usually.
Oh, okay.
With Protect.
Yeah, I assume this crit here mattered, right? I mean,
yeah. The first D pulse was a higher roll, and then a back to back
that
crit.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, then of course this crit is more unfortunate. But...
Yeah, Darkrai is usually really nasty versus these T-Spike teams as well, because they're usually more geared towards like CM spamming. So the only way these teams can actually deal with the Darkrai at full is through the choice Scarfer, which is very exploitable usually.
Yeah.
Yep. So the goal was to nasty plot, take a deep pulse, Dark Void, and then sub, and just do as much damage as possible. Obviously, that crit means that I have to just take the kill, and I that the Scarfer's coming. Teams like these always have a Scarfer, so that was the first limitation there.
Yeah.
I wonder if
Scarfer was amazing in this game too.
I wonder if there you could have gone to Quill on the Raji and tried to save Rai. I mean, I don't know if it makes much difference.
That's a great point, and one I considered. I think that looking back, giving up Darkrai wasn't the best move, but it's hindsight. The reason I did save Quill was because I was Custap Berry, so even with the T-Wave, I have a Custap Explosion and Destiny Bond, so I was trying to save as much HP because Quill is a fragile mon. Sending it into Jirachi, though, was a fine play, and it probably should have been done.
So what did it switch out of the Dialga? Does it expect a
yeah, definitely.
trick?
He was probably just expecting to trick.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he was expecting trick, and that's a bulky roar Dialga with a choice scarf. It's not going to do any damage to anything. It's much tougher to kill with lefties. So I understood why he did that, and obviously he goes to Scarf Rachi to absorb a potential trick scarf. To that point, I haven't shown a Scarfer at all, so that was his guess.
So can you just pause here for a second? So,
Yes.
Dave, at this point, what was going through your mind? What were you thinking of that was going to lead you to winning this game, if at all possible?
Yeah, the number one thing in my mind is for my thought process, I have a Scarf Chomp in the back, and I see no ground resist, meaning I know that his last is a ground resist, meaning I don't want to reveal Chomp too early because that could lead that leads to his ground resist having some type of leverage. So to this point, I'm really weak to Spadef Dialga. I want to get up. I want to get up as many layers as possible, force it out, and try to get residual damage. Part of the reason I didn't save Darkrai for later was because, in my mind, his remaining Mons looked really weak to my Choice Specs Kyogre, and he doesn't have any hazards up at this point. So I can get Kyogre in for free. That's just free water spouts for days, and it's probably going to melt his team. So at this point in the game, it's just get as much mileage out of Quillfish, and then try to get Kyogre in for free. Even if Kyogre takes damage later, I can just Healing Wish it back with Jirachi.
All right.
So my late game plan was Kyogre in game, or kill either the back steel ground resist, whether it's I knew it's probably not a Bronzong because I know that London will sometimes run mono steel Dialga, so I knew that Chomp would probably be good for a late sweep if I needed it, but I knew that it was probably going to come down to just spamming as much powerful Kyogre spams as possible.
By monosteel Dialga, do you mean it has flash cannons as its only attacking move, or what does that mean?
No, monosteel Dialga. Typically, in DPP, you run a steel dragon resist, but Dialga's not a dragon resist. So he runs a mono steel type with Dialga as his only steel on the team. Society and myself, for example, might we would leverage Jirachi, Bronzong, typically two of the better options.
Yeah,
Fortress,
I use
Heatran.
Bronzong like my Bronzong usage is near 70% for that reason.
Yep.
All right.
I guess it's worth mentioning as well is that if you guys, for example, were in London's position, do you think you would be able to call out the Chomp? Because if I was in London's position, I would assume the last two are Scarf Ogre and Gyaro, actually.
At this point, honestly, I would not have expected Scarfer here because you have Quillfish as spotty speed control anyway. So the last one I probably would expect as one of the two, because one of that has to be Kyogre, obviously, because you don't want Quillfish without rain, right? So I thought Kyogre and then some type of strong Mon, not a Toy Scarfer though.
And one more thing to mention too is the point of the, so I don't have a ghost, and the reason behind it is I didn't really care about stacking spikes with this team or even getting T spikes out. I wanted to use Quillfish mainly to absorb, and then I can use it to suicide, or if I get the chance to throw up a layer in their face, that's great. But protecting the hazards wasn't really the priority of the team. The priority of the team was around pivoting Darkrai and Kyogre to just do as much damage as humanly possible, which is really strong versus teams like Eclipse, which is your standard sun stall balance. It's just really strong into those structures.
Yeah, if you were to ask me now, like what are the last two, I probably would have said Kyogre and Giratina unquestioned at this point because they just fit the general structure of the remaining two of Stone Cold's team. So I think in London's mind, all he has to do is preserve this Spadef Dialga and just win.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So that was Explosion there, because Explosion plus Kyogre attack means Spadef Dialga's gone, unfortunately. And I mentioned I was EV'd earlier, but only for Scarf. So I had primary attack investment with Explosion. Jolly still though.
And would it have killed without the crit as well?
No.
It was dead.
It was dead. Well, yeah, it was most likely dead since Quillfish is really only surviving resisted moves. One thing to note is I was fine sacking it if it came to that so that I could get Kyogre for free. So I knew that was going to be a trade.
And of course you just missed. That is so unfortunate.
Yeah, that was rough.
Especially after seeing that damage. Oh my lord.
Yeah.
Shaman Sky, is that a common mon?
No.
So I knew that I had a feeling London would come in with the tech. Skyman was the tech. Subseed, so it's a substitute. Seed Flare, Leech Seed, and Air Slash. Yeah. Now, in my mind, I know that I need to get Chomp in for free. Slow turn is fine. That's going to make him make a decision with Skyman on whether he wants to leech seed or seed flare for damage or air slash for damage. And then I know that it's just going to come down to either pairs with Jirachi or I had a feeling that it's a slow Kyogre, so a combination of hazards plus toxic, outrage, and Iron Head. You know, there's a couple of ways that I could maneuver to a win, even though it's in London's favor at this point.
Do you two-hit with outrage and hazards from this range to the Jirachi? Or is it even a one-hit? At 50%?
No, so it lives outrage, and the Jirachi most definitely has Ice Punch, but there's a chance.
Alright.
He didn't. Well, I'll wait to comment. Hey, can you hover over his Jirachi? So, pause for a second.
Yes.
So Society says that it most definitely has Ice Punch, but this is a set that I've used before, where if you run U-turn Healing Wish, you can go for Trick over Ice Punch. So he's Healing Wishing here instead of Ice Punching, just kind of indicating that it could be Trick instead of Ice Punch.
Mm-hmm.
If he was paired there, then it was a high probability that I could win with a combination of Iron Head and T-Spikes.
Yeah, and all in all, it was just a super unfortunate game on your end. You played your outs very well.
Yeah, also very favored through the team builder, through your preparations for the game.
Yeah, and just a classic example of, you called the matchup right, but sometimes things don't go your way. I lucked London really badly in the Ubers World Cup, and he got his revenge here, so it's all in good fun. He capitalized on it well. Didn't give me much opportunity by throwing or anything. So
Yeah.
Then we can move on to the game between Piyu and Shrang.
So I haven't even watched this game, and I don't know the result. So this will be a fun one.
So Deoxys Speed versus Tyranitar.
Yeah. So Sus, do you want to comment on why he went T-Tar versus Shrang?
Yeah, I think I played Shrang a couple times. So the reason why I like Tyranitar lead generally versus Shrang is because he's a huge Deoxys spammer, especially Sash Deoxys. So Shrang's bread and butter teams are Sash Deoxys with Stealth Rock and Spikes, HO. So it could be Wobbuffet, it could be Screens, but generally speaking, he loves to just set up hazards and just start trading immediately. So Tyranitar is one of the best leads versus Sash Deoxys, mainly because one, you limited to one hazard, and second of all, the Sash remains intact afterwards if it's Sash. So they have to trade something to break the Sash on Tyranitar, and that's a huge advantage because you not only get damage on whatever they use to trade. Typically, it's the Groudon or Kyogre, but you also get the sack advantage right off the bat. So that's the reason why Lead T-Tar is generally very popular, in my opinion, versus Shrang.
And from Shrang's perspective, if I'm thinking of like looking at a self scout, and they know that I'm going to bring Sash Dio, mixing it up with Culver is probably a pretty good call. His Shrang's goal is if Deoxys gets Stealth Rock and 1 Spikes, then that is the best case scenario, and his game plan's not gonna change, whether he gets 1 Stealth Rock or Stealth Rock and Spikes. So, Shrang sees the T-Tar, he's gonna choose to set up. That T-Tar doesn't change his game plan at all. He's gonna get his rocks up, and then he's just gonna put his foot on the gas and try to start trading. From that point on, he can either choose to try to deny rocks, or he can choose to just try to get a setup in right away and start killing stuff. Piyu, his goal should always be to he neuters the lead matchup, and B, he needs to just try to slow the game down. If you can slow the game down versus Shrang, you're probably going to win. So.
Yeah, he can also just keep up the sack advantage because he's going to get the sack advantage right away because of his lead matchup.
Yep.
Right. So.
Yep.
To describe just happened, and there's the immediate advantage. Switching out of the rocks here does mean that the sash is broken.
I was very confused on why he wouldn't just trade damage on the ground right away. This play weirded me out when I initially saw it, but there must have been a reason. The main reason is probably it's not Sash Tyranitar, which is interesting on this structure, especially, as you're going to see.
Yeah.
So, a couple of comments too. Number one, what is the T-Tar? Because if it's a Spadef T-Tar, you're not doing any damage to the Groudon anyway, and maybe rocks aren't as important, or maybe it has something like Pursuit, or he wants to save it for a mid game pivot, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And then number two, Shrang is notorious for liking setup on Groudon, with lefties. So you can see a sub come out, you can see an SD, you could see a rock polish. Maybe he's going to Mewtwo with the expectation that it could be like a stall 2 or something that could really neuter that setup immediately.
Yeah. Also, hazard removal is really limited in DPP Ubers, right? Fortress.
Because of Giratina.
Yeah. And Fortress is the only viable spinner as far as I know.
You can use Tentacruel if you want, but mid-game spinners is usually just Fortress.
Alright.
So yeah, you see the Life Orb, so that's going to be a Rock Polish Groudon. Meaning it's probably going to be Rock Polish, Fire Punch, Dragon Claw, and Earthquake. You can substitute D-Claw or Fire Punch for Stone Edge, but the former 3 typically has better coverage. Stone Edge is really just going to be effective for Lugia and Ho. And so for Mewtwo, we'll see what type of Mewtwo it is here.
Yeah. So
it took a lot from that Earthquake, but it doesn't kill.
And no lefties.
So what was the point of this sequence right here, switching to the Wobbuffet and going immediately out of it again?
But he expected, he knew Tom was coming.
Yeah.
So he went from thinking offensive Mewtwo potentially to, okay, that's a screens team.
Yeah. I don't think Cal. So when he saw the Earthquake damage, I don't think he realized that it was screens 2 right away, or else I don't know why he went Wobbuffet as his initial switch.
Oh, did that crit?
What do you guys think about that SD right there, actually?
I think the SD was fine.
Yeah, so the crit, I have Payu's team because it was built by a friend of his. The crit, it mattered, but the roll was significantly in Shrang's favor.
So that's what I was thinking. Is, I mean, a lot of people might run like a heavily invested Groudon with Swords Dance. Team like that, maybe sacrifice attack EVs to go double dance. So Rock Polish and Swords Dance. Was that what the Groudon set was, or was it single Swords Dance 3 attack?
If you have the team
let me
and
check.
we're able to share it, I can also pull it up here.
No, I would rather not share.
All
the
right,
specific-
all right.
Yeah, you don't have to reveal the moves or anything if you don't want to. But
I guess it was just hoping that screens would be
honestly,
up.
I think it's better. I think it's for the to show respect for the other players. I'm not gonna, but I have the team.
All right.
That's fine.
Also,
hey, if you pause for a second, I'm a little more shameless. I'm pretty sure I got this team too. Give me a second.
Bruh.
So in the meanwhile, at this point, both the structures of the team are revealed. So with setup, Dawn, and screens Mewtwo, there's only one style of team that Piyu can run, and that's screens hyper offense. So this is a very volatile matchup for both players. Generally speaking.
So I would assume both teams have Giratina and.
No, so Shrang is notoriously known for running no Giratina with double hazard lead Deoxys, just so he can maximize the amount of pressure he can apply with his broken mons.
So you're looking at
likely. Yeah, sorry.
go ahead.
There's that one thing. Luckily, and on Payu's team, there's a very low chance there's a Giratina because he doesn't have spikes. So he doesn't have necessarily incentive to add a spin blocker. He most likely would rather just have another setup sweeper with the screens. Sorry, Dave. Sorry about that.
Oh no. You get. So here's some insight. So that Swords Dance was good by Piyu because obviously, if you Rock Polish and they double straight to Wob, you're not doing anything to Wob, and you're losing a Groudon. That's number one.
Yes.
Number two. This particular Groudon is not favored by Shrang's Mewtwo sets that he tends to like. So in this instance, I think that switching out, if you have a switch, is the right play. The issue is Mewtwo has fantastic coverage. Typically, if you're seeing Life Orb, you're looking at Ice Beam, Aura Sphere, either Flamethrower or Thunder, just based off of who your weather is, and then you're looking at Self-Destruct. It's a very tough mon to switch into if you're running I'd say a balanced or offensive team, because it does a lot of damage.
Even just hyper offense too.
Yeah. So Piyu had a decision to make of basically, do I want to risk the roll, and if he does, then he can get really ahead. Either way, the decision he makes, even if he lives, he's getting revenged by Scizor if he tries to keep it in. Unfortunate crit. I don't know how it would have gone, but it was a SD Rock Polish.
So real quick, Mewtwo doesn't have Size Strike in this generation. It gets it in Generation 5, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
and also generally
anyways.
speaking, Mewtwo doesn't run psychic coverage at all, just because the other coverage it has is just straight up better.
And there's really no fighting. There's really no fighting types that are prevalent in this gen outside of like Hariyama, right? So,
Right.
So it would be a very bad decision to go stab Psychic with Mewtwo, especially with all the. You'd have to probably give up Aura Sphere because you want a Fire move or Thunder to take advantage of the weather, and you want Ice Beam because the tier is primarily Dragon types. So you just can't.
And you need Aura Sphere for Tyranitar and Darkrai especially.
Yep.
Right.
At this point, when you guys see the 5 on Shrang's team, do you think the last one is anything but Ray?
No, it has to be Ray.
Yeah.
And for context, especially for the host here, Wobbuffet, Wobray is one of the most common archetypes of teams. If you have Wobbuffet, very high probability that you have a Rayquaza. That's because you can set up Encore, set up a safeguard, get Ray in cleanly so that it can Dragon Dance, or if you're confident in your opponent's team, you can run Swords Dance, and Ray will just start melting things. So
Yeah,
you might
and also,
or might not see that.
Yeah, and also Rayquaza gives a water resist. So if you're looking at Shrang's team, he doesn't have anything to abuse Kyogre right after Rep, especially with Story Scarf.
And DPP, Swift Swimmers are pretty. I'd say 30% of the time, if you see a rain, you might see a Swift Swimmer. So Ray's just going to neutralize that completely. Just a really good mon.
It's a broken mon.
Do you guys think Shrang could have just hard whopped there instead of letting the Mewtwo die?
I think that he should have preserved Mewtwo.
Yeah.
Once Shrang sees that that Piyu is leaving Groudon into Mewtwo, that's my first tell that, holy moly, this guy might not have any answers. And hey, guess what? He's using screens. Guess what people don't use on screens? They don't use Scarfers. So high probability, unless there's a random Jolteon or something, or a Deoxys, high probability that Mewtwo's now the fastest mon in the game. You're just sacking it for free doesn't make too much sense from that standpoint, because you know that there's probably not going to be a Scarfer, and you know that he doesn't have any great switch-ins.
Real quick, Jolteon is played in DPP Ubers?
No. He's just saying that there's very little there's very few mons that are naturally faster than Mewtwo.
Okay.
And this is another reason that Shrang preserved Wob, though. But you ask, why did he not go to Wob immediately? Well, he's gonna now force the Wob into where he can get a type of setup. So
that could help him actually.
So if Gira has Wisp, he's protected. Shrang does like to use a Spadef setup Groudon, but this one tells me that it's probably more offensive.
With the Light Orb, yeah.
Still relatively bulky from that damage. With an SD, if he would have SD'd, then it would have looked good. But as we said earlier, it's Life Orb 3 attack. So.
Yeah.
So you saw a Ray switch out. That's because Ray is most likely DD, Earthquake, Fire Move, Outrage instead of E-Speed.
Yeah.
And so, are we going to see a Ray versus Ray here?
Yep.
So was that a speed tie, or does it have Focus Sash?
Well, let me tell you whether it's a speed tie or not. It is a speed tie. Yep. And Shrang gets the time.
Yeah, these matchups are just very very high stakes normally, just because every turn matters when you're playing both very offensive teams.
So
now I'm not sure if Shrang should have preserved the Mewtwo given the last two. I still think that it was probably just better just a hard Wobbuffet just to preserve the Mewtwo. I don't know though, honestly.
Well, no, Wob was the right play. Just looking at this team, looking at Piyush's team, it has nothing for Mewtwo. I mean, yes, you can Shadow Sneak it. That was a relatively weak Shadow Sneak though, which makes me think that it's probably a predominantly special attacking invested Giratina, because we know for certain that if a setup Groudon is running Bulk it is probably not bulk in favor of defense. It's probably bulk in favor of special defense. So judging from the fact that that Shadow Sneak did so little, you can expect that Shadow Sneak would probably do 30 to 40% to Mewtwo, making Mewtwo still just a great option. Because Ice Beam is gonna nuke Giratina, and then he's gonna get at least 1 to 2 other kills from there.
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, just self-destruct is just incredibly useful to have if you get rid of the Giratina. Just a guaranteed
which he had
kill on
options too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. Anything else to add to this game, or shall we move on to the last game?
The only thing to add is they both brought, Piyu's challenge, Shrang's offense with offense, and you got the ending that you probably viewers like to see. It came down to a last turn speed tie. That's how a lot of offense comes down to when you're trying to just play the trading game.
Yeah.
So, Shrang came in with a game.
Yeah. And also, I rate Piyush's bring. I think it was a very unorthodox team, but the structure and the thought process, I think, was good into what Shrang usually likes.
So we've mentioned a lot of things Shrang could have maybe done differently, but what could have Piyush maybe done to get the upper hand here?
I think the only thing that, in my head, he should have probably done was not sack the Mewtwo's HP like that. We saw that the Groudon was just extremely offensive at the it had some bulk, but it was predominantly like offensive oriented. So I think what Piyu should have done was just stay in with the T-Tar on the Groudon and just stealth rocked up, then fire blasted, and then just traded with Groudon right after. That's what I think he should have done.
So now that I have a little more insight, I justified keeping Groudon in on the Ice Beam, but now that we know for certain that it is a screens HO with a choice Scarfer in Dialga, because you saw from the Wob sequence that Dialga was spamming Draco, so that was definitely a Scarf Dialga. I would have gone Dialga on the Mewtwo, and then I would have just fired a Draco. You keep your Groudon, and you get significant damage on probably Shrang's Sizor is what would come into that Draco. Or you can predict the Sizor, and maybe if you have Fire Blast or something. So you had some options to scare the Mewtwo out while protecting your Groudon for later. And I know for a fact that it's Rock Polish Groudon. So versus Shrang's HO, that's just an incredibly awesome mon to have in the back for late game.
Right, yeah.
So just a little. So my recommendation for Piyush was definitely try to set it up just a little too early before he had all the information.
All right, and then moving on to the last game, Staxi versus Inspirited. So, right off the bat, what do these leads tell about the teams? Probably Deoxys.
Not much on Deoxys. You can really use it on whatever, because it's just early game spikes. The only thing that implies on Staxi's team is that there's a most likely a ghost in the back. And then when you usually see a Kyogre lead in DPP, it doesn't really imply too much, aside from the fact that it's most definitely a rain team.
Yeah, I mean, Kyogre is maybe the most versatile lead in DPP. You can run Lum with T-Wave 3 attack. You can run Lum CM T-Wave. You can run Scarf. You can run Specs. It is the creme de la creme of facing mons like Darkrai and Deoxys. So the viewers are getting probably the most standard classic DPP lead matchup. You're getting the most popular lead in Deoxys and the second most popular lead in Kyogre, and for good reason. And what we can expect here is Deoxys is either going to be one of typically 3 sets. You can have a Choice Scarf with Trick set up, which is very bad into Kyogre. You can have Sash set up, and then you can have a Sash mix hybrid where it's like typically an attacking move like E-Speed, Shadow Ball, Spikes, and then you can have like something like Mirror Coat, which is really great into Kyogre. So it'll be fun to see which direction they went, because there's a lot of options.
Yeah, Deoxys is really versatile. It actually can tailor. It can actually tweak into any like one of the popular lead matchups. Like you can use Cobra for Tyranitar. You can use Mirror Coat for Kyogre. You can use Trick for opposing hazard leads. It's just the definitive best lead mon in DPP.
Right.
And that was a Scarf.
Yep.
Or Colbur, but probably Scarf.
Colberberry did what again?
Cobra is for Tyranitar.
Yeah.
Oh,
Actually, do you mind inviting Zale? Because I asked her if she wants to join.
She's not around right now, sadly.
Oh, okay. I mean, she asked me on PS, that's why.
so Colbur's the berry that halves super effective dark type damage?
Yep.
Alright. Lumberry heal that. 2 Lumberries.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he wrecked or Inspirited rather T-Waved Palkia immediately. Maybe for later, yeah.
It's a good play. I mean, so if
Yeah.
I guess T-Wave isn't the best play because if you're Lustrous, you probably have Sub anyway, so you're going to avoid the T-Wave for sure. And
Yeah.
and if you're Loam, then you can do exactly what Staxi did and just thunder freely.
Right. Yeah. So at this point, a lot of the information for both teams is revealed. So Staxi, if he's running Palkia Bronzong, I would assume there's 2 mons that has to be there. There has to be a Primal, and 90% it's going to be Kyogre, and then he has to have a Giratina, and then he has to have something. And then the last on this team is probably a Dialga, if I had to guess. And then from Inspirited's team, he has to have a Dragon Resist, so it's probably like Skarmory or Bronzong, and then that will dictate what dragon he's using. It could be Latios or Giratina, and then there's some trump card mon. It's probably the speed control because the Kyogre is not Choice Scarf.
It's standard practice that a lot of rain teams will have Bronzong on them. Obviously, you get the fire debuff. However, Bronzong is still good even if it's not on rain, because it's still going to be an excellent switch in. Some perks of using it with Groudon instead of Kyogre is hey, you're taking away thunder spamming, which is a common tool used against Bronzong to whittle it down. So in Staxi's most common structure, one could predict it's going to be Kyogre, but his team is still left open-ended to where it could be a Groudon, because all you have to do is swap out Hydro Pump for Fire Blast on Palkia. So if he wanted to go an unconventional route, he most likely didn't. But that is some things that some more veteran players might do to throw off the opponent to keep them guessing on what the last Pokemon could be.
In that Blissey and Palkia interaction, are you not afraid of just getting like Focus Punch there?
Oh, he should have definitely respected Focus Punch, I think.
Yeah.
It's not common enough. You can always send out a filler seismic toss to gauge it, which is what I like to do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's what I
that's
thought.
correct. But yeah, Or you can scout by doubling into like your dragon, for example. If you want to be a little more frisky about scouting it, and it also covers other doubles.
Inspirited's probably thinking, hey, Staxi doesn't play a ton of DPP. He's probably using a more standard Palkia set. He sees Lum, and he's not seeing Sub, which one would surmise that, if he had Sub, he would have used it versus Kyogre, potentially.
Yep.
Even on the, especially on the second turn, even if he thundered Kyogre the first time, he could have subbed the next time. So, Focus Punch doesn't always have sub. Typically, it's 3 attack plus Focus Punch. So it's still open-ended to what he had. But I think he's just betting on Stax's experience and not having it here.
Yeah, so Palkia has to run a dragon move for sure. It has to run Thunder always, in my opinion, because one of the main attractions for Palkia is its match versus Kyogre, and you need Thunder to actually threaten it, especially if it's Calm Mind. And then and then it's usually between Hydro Pump and Fire Blast, as Dave alluded earlier, depending on what your weather is. And then that leaves only one last move slot, so you rarely see Sub and Focus Punch on one move set. So it's usually just raw.
Right. And this is indeed the Kyogre. Do Kyogre sets usually run raw in this generation as well?
No.
Man, Sub Groudon's become real popular.
Yeah, because of the amount of Bronzong people use. Just for context, Bronzong can't break Groudon's substitute unless it has Grass Knot or through Explosion. Those are the only ways you're getting through this. Not even HPRs or Gyro Ball breaks it.
So even if you're running like max attack, max speed Groudon, you can just Swords Dance with Sub and just beat Bronzong straight up with Dragon Claw. Just an incredibly powerful mon. So that's why you typically want to have something to answer for Sub Groudon, whether it's a Giratina. Skarmory's probably the best answer. Lugia is really good as well.
Yeah, I've realized that, especially when we actually played in World Cup, that I actually needed to watch my Bronzong usage just so this doesn't happen.
So are the birds also common this tier, Lugia and Ho? I believe I've rarely seen them in DPP games before.
Yeah, because their Stealth Rock weakness is a really big issue, and Lugia is really the issue is Lugia is really passive and it's actually pretty hard to build a cohesive team. Ho I think should be used a bit more, but obviously the half rock weakness is a really big problem.
All right.
Yeah, you could.
They both have their niches, but they're more popular than say a Skyman or I'd say that they're kind of mixed in with that Garchomp in terms of usage.
Yeah. Real quick, is it likely for this Kyogre to have been Choice Scarf? Based on that,
I would say it's Choice Scarf, yeah. So, what Staxi is using at this time in my head is he's using High Lord Big Five, which is Deoxys, Bronzong, Kyogre, Giratina, and Dialga, and then the last mon is very flexible. So it could be the most popular ones are Kabutops and Darkrai, but you can use Mewtwo, Palkia, or Latios as well. And generally speaking, if you see Palkia, there has to be some other speed control on the team, which is usually the easiest solution is just making Kyogre the Choice Scarf mon. But if you're using like Kabutops, for example, then you have a mon that's faster than Darkrai and Mewtwo naturally, so you can be a little more flexible with the Kyogre set. So that's what I'm going towards right now. So I think the last mons are Spadef Dialga and Slow Giratina, because I'm assuming Staxi's Bronzong has Trick Room, which is just a great tool to clean up offense.
And if you're running Surf on Kyogre, probably not going to be Specs. I mean, Specs is all about power. I just don't see it's a little redundant to run spec surf. But choice scarf surf's a bit better because you have that reliability of consistent damage on Mewtwo while outspeeding it, and there's a couple of other niches for it.
All right. And Kingdra is uncommon here because it's like just the worst version of Kabutops, I assume from the context.
I would say so. And also, it's not likely because Staxi already has a water dragon on it, revealed.
Yeah, I mean, on these structures in general, if he was to play it as the last flexible slot for the speed control instead of Palkia, I mean. Yeah.
So I didn't like that outrage at all. Just a little telegraphed. What I would do in that position is most Bellissis, they'll maybe T-Wave you, or Toxic if they have it. This one's probably T-Wave.
T-Wave was
for
revealed.
For the synergy between the Groudon, in order to reveal the two, that's true.
I think this is... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, switching the Gyara-O on the Blissey, it's kind of why I feel the Palkia really needs Focus Punch, because otherwise you just can't break it. Like, if outraging it, just... Yeah.
It is not a good look if your Blissey solution is Giratina.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right there.
So...
Yeah.
Real quick, he didn't T-Wave with the Blissey here because if there was...
No, he didn't T-Wave. He didn't T-Wave with the Blissey because, on this turn especially, he just wanted to softball, so he has a consistent Kyogre switch in, and then he didn't T-Wave the turn after because Bronzong was free, because outrage was so obvious.
So here's a reason of why you're forced to soft boil, and Society just alluded to it, but a little additional is, let's say he decided to T-Wave. Or he decided to seismic toss, and let's say Staxi switches into an answer. Well, now you have the answer that comes in forces Blissey out. Well, now your Blissey is going to take rocks and spikes, meaning that it cannot switch into Kyogre anymore. So those Choice Scarf, Rain, Surfs, that's now going to melt the Blissey switch in, all because he went for a greedy cripple instead of just taking the HP. So he made the right place off it boiling there.
Yeah, and he also, and Inspirited probably realizes now that Blissey is like a gigantic threat just because Staxi can't kill it.
Now, this is a good example, just a dual weather with Zong, just a really solid core that is pretty common.
Yeah, thanks to High Lord.
Yeah, I mean, both structures are pretty well-known High Lord structures, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great double by Staxi right there, too. Had to make that.
Mm-hmm.
So now he can spam outrage. I mean,
Bronzong is no longer a viable switch in.
And also, something else to notice that the way Staxi's playing his last Mon, it probably means that it's some type of endgame Mon. I would, at this point, I still think the odds of Dialga are still there, but it could probably be like some other sweeper maybe. So I think in Spirited's mind that there's a really good chance that the last Dialga is some type of bulk upset, just because if you're looking at Staxi's team, right, his matchup versus Stall is non-existent. Palkia doesn't have Focus Punch. Giratina's walled by Cresselia, for example, and Bronzong and Kyogre are just useless without Spike. So last one has to be something that is for like something bulkier, in my opinion.
Right.
I'm willing to bet money it's probably a Kabutops. It just really makes sense on this team. The only thing that makes me question it is Staxi probably had an opportunity to unleash Kabutops on the obvious soft boiled. Now, I say obvious soft boiled, but Staxi maybe thinks that T Wave is an option. But if I'm playing someone experienced, I know that T Wave is not an option for them at that point. And so, you could go in and just try to cheekily break their team down. That is a more aggressive approach that maybe someone like Shrang would make instead of Staxi. But I'm still feeling good about a Kabutops call here.
Right. Yeah, and with this current setup, he would be unable to break through with the Kabutops, with Groudon
Now-
up especially.
Now, there's structures of this team that are known both with Kabu as the last and with Dialga as the last. So it is kind of a coin flip. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't one of those two.
So why is
Yeah, with
Payback
with
played?
Cabo, it's probably. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so Payback's the default option to hit Giratina and Latios. And the reason why you don't use Gyro Ball is because you want some speed on your Bronzong so you don't get wobbed.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Alright.
And another example of facing a wob, right, is like you can go like Hypnosis and then explode and then maybe set up on the wob or something like that. So that additional speed comes in, it's useful.
Yep.
So it's unlikely that this Giratina can threaten a Draco Meteor here because it's revealed physical.
No, it can run out. It can run Outrage with Draco Meteor. That's perfectly fine set.
But if you have Outrage, you probably have Draco Meteor. If you're running physical, a lot of the times it's like Dragon Claw, Shadow Sneak, Wisp, and then filler, usually Earthquake or Roar.
Yeah.
And now there are physical with Outrage if you just want to do tons of damage. But that Bronzong damage told me that's probably leaning towards Spadef.
Yeah.
I mean special attack.
3 confused Sulfids are very unfortunate here.
Yeah, and you see the power right now. Like Staxi has no clean way of revenge killing this thing.
I don't like that Earthquake. You just gotta explode. You know it's not.
And it's also playing with fire with the Paros.
Mm-hmm.
There's
There
the
you go.
boom. So is it keeping the Groudon up as Zac mostly? I
Yeah.
believe it.
So the reason why he probably did that is because the Bronzong revealed Stealth Rock, right? So the Blissey has a free move slot because usually on these teams, like what I like to do is I like Stealth Rock on Blissey with Kyogre lead, because if you play like opposing Kyogre, you can just hard switch into Blissey and get your turns, get your rocks up turn 2. But it revealed to be Stealth Rock Bronzong. So I think what Inspirit is thinking is he can bring back the Groudon with Healing Wish Blissey.
Oh, alright. Yeah. It should live from 19, I believe it does 18.5 resisted rocks.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it just has enough.
So if you have a Kabutops or something, this is when you go to it. I don't like sacking the Ogre with Groudon still, and it's a Dialga, so that's why he did Kabu. Yeah, really, really unfortunate Mewtwo set for
Stall 2
Staxi.
wins again.
Yeah.
Broken Mon. Yeah, not even a crit kills this thing at this range.
Good pivot though. If it's Hydro, like a crit Hydro could put
So it does
Blissey in
that.
range. Oh,
So he is sub.
I wouldn't have said. I would have Hydro that.
What would the other play other than Hydra have been? Thunder Force or potential Para?
So what you do is you sub on the T wave and then you double to Dialga.
But wouldn't that have just led to the situation with Mewtwo being repeated? And
Yeah, but Mewtwo's probably not going to kill with Aura Sphere, and then you make Inspirited switch out because Seismic's not going to break a sub, assuming 404 HP. So you can play some games with D-Claw. Maybe you'll get a crit or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very low probability for Staxi at this point. Like,
Yeah,
he's going to have to
and
just
especially
kind of
yeah,
commit.
especially because his Palkia's on a timer with the stealth rock and stuff.
yeah,
But his Palkia is not. It's wasting its breath staying in on this. Well,
Yeah. Now
so
Mewtwo's
that was
positioned
a
to
bad Seismic. But
oh. Keeping it up as a sack.
No, he had to get
Yeah.
it in on Blissey because that's the only way Dialga can set up on. He's not setting up on this Mewtwo.
yeah, this is GG.
I think he should have just taunted first. Yeah.
Just a well played game by Inspirited. Really,
Yeah.
no mistake. The only mistake is that I would call it a half of a mistake is he let Blissey get really low and into Palkia range. Now Palkia was low enough to where it's probably not any threat to his team, but you never know. I mean, a weird roll could happen or something.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
the last Pokemon wasn't revealed. What is it likely? What could it have likely been?
Chios.
This is a public team. But
Yeah.
the last is Rayquaza.
Uh,
Mixed Rayquaza.
So the reason I didn't like that there is because let's say Palkia crit the Blissey. Palkia is it's in the red HP. Mewtwo comes in without the Healing Wish, and let's say it misses a Wisp or has the taunt and gets crit or something. Then the game opens up a little bit, and it could have been played safer, but still well done to Inspirited.
Yeah, he Rec knew he had many win conditions in this game. Sub SD Dawn, Blissey, and now the Stall 2-2.
yeah.
So it's just a really well played game from Inspirited, honestly, from start to end.
Yeah, just solid.
All right.
But took advantage of Staxi's inexperience maybe a little bit. I know that Staxi might play the tier, but definitely doesn't play it to the level of all the other starters, besides maybe Piyu.
Yeah.
Right, and then to finish this off, we can maybe take a look at the DPP matchups of next week.
Right. So I'm trying to schedule my game with Piyu right now, but he hasn't responded to me yet. It's going to be probably Sunday. But I'm looking forward to that game because when I played Piyu in World Cup, I built a Jumpluff Sun team just because Jumpluff Encore is very good versus Hyper Offense. I misplayed the game completely. I had a game plan, but I did not execute it at all, and I had to lock him in the end. So hoping for a cleaner game this time.
All right. The other matchup is Staxi versus Rob Jr.
I'm curious to see what Rob brings, just because Hack is a cook. Same with Mashing.
Yeah, I'd say that it's slightly in Rob's favor, but
Based
you
off
know,
the
it's
score, yeah.
I mean, Staxi could easily take that game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Next up are you versus Shrang.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's gonna be a fun match. That's gonna be a fun matchup. Two veteran players going head to head again.
Shrang, he fished and lucked me in DPPL and won by he won off a Fire Blast roll. He won 1-0 with a 2% Groudon. So I hope that I luck him. This time.
Yeah. And last up we got London Beats versus Inspirited.
So
Yeah,
I think
two solid players.
yes, both great players. That should be a good game as well. It's gonna be interesting to see what they bring as well.
I rated London as maybe not the majority opinion of the best player in the pool, but definitely one of my favorite players in the pool. He has like the perfect mix of creativity, but solid building all around. So I'm favoring London here, but Inspirited probably played one of the most solid games of the week. But
I think he played the most solid out of everyone last
but
week, in my opinion.
he also played one of the weakest opponents, so it's hard to tell.
Yeah. So 3 of the 4 games, if I remember that correctly, did play somewhat of a bigger role.
Yeah.
Let's hope that this doesn't really happen like that next week. And thank you so much for being here today. I think it was really awesome trying this out, and I think it did turn out great. We had a lot of very in-depth explanations, easily understandable by everyone, I would assume.
I hope so.
I
I may have waffled mid podcast, but hopefully it wasn't too bad.
I believe it's fine. So at least I was able to get along. No, get along isn't the right word. Understand everything that was said here pretty easily, and I'm not a DPP player.
I hope you got something out of this podcast.
Yeah.
Aside from that.
Yeah. And to the viewers, please let us know if you like this as well, or if there are any other tiers you would like to see something similar. So we do actually have something like this planned in a bit of another format with Black and White, where Hack is solo explaining more or less most of these matches and the matchups. That's also coming this week, as well as the complete weekly recap. So with that, thank you for watching, and bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Later. You too.